And thank you, Rachel, Dan, and Jennifer for joining us today as presenters. On behalf of the Freedom's Way National Heritage Area, I'd like to welcome everyone to this, our first webinar. So you are in some ways pioneering this medium with us today. And we're very happy and excited to be doing a presentation on creating engaging interpretive experiences in an increasingly digital world. And I think many of you know that one of the key objectives of the Freedom's Way National Heritage Area is to support our partners and also to connect our partners to each other and to understand and share the work that's being done throughout the region. And so this is a great forum and opportunity for us to learn from each other. And so we're extremely grateful for all the talents and skills that you'll see today and presented in this webinar. I think it's fair to say that in our COVID-19 world, we've all had to pivot a little bit. I know for Freedom's Way, we typically do connecting communities along our trails, and we've spent a lot of energy and time in doing programs that, put us right out there in communities, working with our partners, in these very, very wonderful presentations that were, if you will, in the field. But we, like everyone else, have pivoted and really looked and tried to figure out ways that we can help our partners, if you'll make this change or this transformation into the digital universe. I hope you've had an opportunity to see that we launched a small grant program early on in the pandemic to help our partners purchase equipment and do the things that they needed to do to make this transition. And if you haven't accessed that program, there's still time. We still have some funds available, so take a look at our website. I'm also really excited to share that just yesterday at our board meeting, the board approved a very substantial contract to do a rebranding process for the organization and to do a redesign of our website. And we're going to be reaching out to all of you, our partners and our friends and our communities to get input in that process, because I think a lot of us, as we think about the future, are trying to figure out ways to share our information collectively in this virtual world. So at any rate, thank you for joining us today. We're going to welcome your feedback. So after this webinar, we will have a second webinar coming up. It's a forum that we would like to expand upon for the organization. And so we look forward to your feedback and understanding, A, how we did today, and B, what we can do in the future to support your work. So thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Patrice. My name is Desiree Dembski-Hamlin. I am the Deputy Director at Freedom's Way National Heritage Area. And so first, we're just going to take care of a few housekeeping things. All of the attendees, if you haven't already noticed, you are on mute. At the end of our panelist presentations today, we will hold a question and answer period. We ask that you hold your questions until then. But if anything comes to mind throughout the presentations, you can type your questions into the Q&A feature down at the bottom of your screen, or you can feel free to use the chat feature. And that will be a moderated session at the end. So we'll read those out for you. Okay, so we want to welcome and thank you all for joining us in the first of our two-part webinar series called Creating Engaging Interpretive Experiences in an Increasingly Digital World. Today's session is on developing guided experiences for all ages. And we're delighted to see a diverse audience of longtime partners and friends, as well as a number of new names and faces. So thanks again for being here. So Freedom's Way National Heritage Area, we host a month-long celebration every May called the Hidden Treasures Festival of Nature, Culture, and History. And that is a month-long experience that is celebrating the natural, cultural, and resources of the region. And what happens is all of these community partners, wonderful organizations, they design events that are then offered to the public free of charge. And so today we have panelists from three of these wonderful partners who are here with us today, and they're going to tell us about some of the different projects that they've worked on in the past that allow people to either have these self-guided experiences. And we want to encourage our people who may be looking to participate in Hidden Treasures in the future to maybe look at some of these different opportunities to use technology to still allow people to explore the heritage area. So let's get started. And we are going to turn it over to Jennifer Anand with the Great American Downtown up in Nashua, New Hampshire. All right, Jen.
Thank you, Desiree and Patrice. I appreciate you inviting me to be a panelist today. As Desiree said, my name is Jennifer Anand. I work for Great American Downtown, which is a nonprofit based out of Nashua, New Hampshire. We basically encourage vitality in the city. We do that through events. And with COVID, that's been quite difficult, as you can imagine. Our biggest event of the year is the holiday stroll, usually the Saturday after Thanksgiving, which brings 30,000 people to our downtown. So obviously not doing that this year, but we are proud to offer an alternative, which is our art tour, which we're here to talk about today. We have actually created a short video I'd like to play for you, which was created in part with our local TV station. It came out really good, and I think it's going to answer a lot of questions. So I would like to show you that.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Anand. I work for Great American Downtown. We are a nonprofit organization that seeks to improve the quality of life for citizens and visitors of Nashua by promoting our downtown. We're all about a great experience for people. We focus on community events, music events, dancing events, events that promote our downtown businesses. We have a new public art tour that we have launched this summer. It is available through an app called Districts, and that is easy to find on any smartphone, either through Android or Apple. It's free to download, and it's basically an app for tourism. It's location-based, so wherever you go and your phone goes, if Districts is in one of those communities, you'll find things like where to park, restaurants, retailers, events happening in that area. So it's a great app if you're traveling and or if you're trying to engage more in your local community. One of the great features of the app is that they allow us to do an activity, which a lot of times are either like a scavenger hunt or a walking tour. Since Nashua has so much public art to view, we took the opportunity to create an art tour for residents and visitors that was free, that was available 24/7 in their own time, where you would start by parking at the Elm Street parking garage. Your first stop takes you to behind City Hall. You'd go north up Main Street, cross the bridge, come south down Main Street. You'd be seeing 15 stops of murals and sculptures. It's about a 1 mile round trip. That'll take you about an hour to an hour and a half if you don't stop along the way, which is hard not to do. And it works like you would be at a art gallery where you would get a headset to listen more to the behind the scenes on the piece you were looking at. This is created the same way, where we're showing you pictures of how that piece was created. You're learning about the artist. You're seeing some of the history of how and why it was created. And the audio comes to you, and you can also flip through the visuals. And you're really learning a lot about these pieces that you may be walking past and never really noticing. With the help of City Arts Nashua, Nashua International Sculpture Symposium, and Positive Street Art. So it's work from those organizations as well as work actually from the city of Nashua as well. Parks and Rec, one of their pieces is on there. So it does represent a lot of organizations. What's exciting about this as well is that it's very family friendly. You know, a lot of places you have to plan when to go somewhere, when it's open, if conditions are right, and especially in the time we're in now, this is a great way for anyone to engage their kids in what they see around the city and what they might want to learn. I think it's really educational and really fun. Kids are really used to technology these days, so engaging in this way, I think, is beneficial, and it is a way that we're used to connecting with people and sharing stories. We did not even get a chance to really scratch the surface of everything that was available. So there are our plans we've already started to work on another tour which takes you along the riverfront. It takes you to places that you weren't at for the first tour. There's a cluster of pieces at the National Public Library. Those weren't on the first tour. So we're excited about creating another tour, different terrain for that. And as the riverfront development project goes forward, it should be easier and easier to navigate those spaces. The tour stops that were harder to create were the ones in which I wasn't really given any content, and I had to kind of dig and figure them out on my own. So the ones I had to do that with were a piece on West Pearl Street that I had to do an interview with artist Jason DeBow, and another was an artist that's pretty well known in the city, Barbara Andrews, who's done a bunch of pieces for us, but now lives in New Mexico. So reaching out to them amid a pandemic, but I think they were pretty excited to know that that things that they had done were being showcased alongside everybody else. I think those were really special and fun to create as well, to create the language and the content for. We're actually excited to also work on a history tour, and that would be very helpful to engage with the Historical Society and other local historians so that we could help to explore the buildings in the city, some of the monuments, places that are important and why, and help people to share those stories. So we're very excited about that as well for the future. We welcome you to join us by downloading this app on the App Store or on Google Play. For more information, you can also contact us on our website, which is downtownnashua.org. And we would love for your feedback when you're done using the app and finished with the tour. We're always learning and growing and seeking to have a better experience for the next one. Thanks so much.
So you guys are the first that have seen that. I hope it was inspiring, and I definitely want to thank Freedom's Way for allowing us to be able to complete this tour. It's been a year of work, very exciting, and we're very thankful. As I mentioned, the project took a year to complete. It was grant funded. We have been promoting it on social media, and we've had 64 individuals take the tour. But when you think about people doing this in groups where they're all sharing a phone, I know that's happened in multiple cases, so I would say that number is higher. We've received mostly positive feedback about this. The overwhelming suggestions have been a little bit more direction for those that are kind of wanting like a turn by turn on each stop, navigating, which with this video showing you exactly where to park was something we hoped to help solve that for some people. And as mentioned, we are looking to do a second tour along our riverfront and of art, and another one of architecture and history. So the tip I would share for any other organization looking to do something similar would be just to give yourself enough time, because it's there's a lot to it. And as anyone knows with grant writing, that's a whole nother animal in and of itself. So it's definitely worth it, but it does take a lot of time and effort, but totally worth it. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jen. Okay, so now we're going to turn to Rachel Robinson. She's the new executive director at the Sudbury Historical Society. Take it away, Rachel.
Hi, everyone. So as Desiree said, I'm Rach Robinson, and I am executive director of Sudbury Historical Society. Again, thank you so much to Freedom's Way. We're very excited to be sharing our interactives with you all. And so we have two tours that were actually created quite a while ago. And the first one about 2009. And they both sort of span being both virtual tours and also self-guided tours. So the first one is our driving tour. And this one was both tours really stemmed from programs that were being run at the time. And then, the volunteers that we have who are excellent and bring just a wealth of knowledge and technical know-how to, it's really how we got both of these platforms off the ground. A lot of really good volunteers who dug in and did all of the work and funded it. We had no grant funding. It was purely volunteer basis and people who had the skills to do it all. So that's just kind of embarrassingly good luck on our part that we had such wonderful people to do all of this for us. So our driving tour is a little bit larger and it's encompassing 35 different sites throughout Sudbury. And it's something that is based on our website. However, you could print a version of it if you didn't want to take it. And if you didn't want to take your smartphone, if you don't have a smartphone, you still want to go through the tour and drive around, you could still have your printable version, which is a little bit skimmed down. I'll kind of show that. It gives you the route and then each of the sites, just a little bit of knowledge there. So that's sort of, it just makes it a little bit more accessible that anyone could really do this. However, kind of the real tour that we wish people would do if they have, they could bring a smartphone with them. It gives just a little bit more information and it's a little bit more interactive. There's some fun images that people can look at. And you have your little map. It shows you where you are. You don't have to start necessarily at one. You could pick up wherever you'd like to. And there are some good, historical images that you would miss if you just downloaded the PDF. And just as you can see, it's a little bit more information for each of them. So this is a really fun one. You could also just pick an area if you wanted to do just the Wayside Inn area or just the downtown area. At the beginning of the tour on the website, it says how long it will take. It's roughly 3 hours. So you can kind of break it up if you want to. If you only have 1 hour to go and do it, you can really play with your own time there. And so this one's a really fun one. Again, it gets you all over Sudbury and actually even a little bit of Wayland because Wayland used to be part of Sudbury. And so so this one was, again, started 2009. It's a little bit simpler. It's more the map based and image based and content based. And then we get into our talking tour. This is Sudbury Center, and this was born out of a program that we run every spring for the third graders, Sudbury Through Time, where the third graders are brought around to Sudbury downtown, and there is a reenactor at each of these sites who will talk about what was happening there. The one Mrs. Loring here at the Loring Parsonage. We have Native American who speaks as well. So there have been really characters that have been created through this one. And this one has a fun auditory component to it that I'll play a little bit of. You can hear narrator talk about the place. And this is the Loring Parsonage. This is where I am currently.
An increasing population and difficult travel motivated having a second church. The church was built a few hundred feet to the west at the Concord Road intersection. The church.
So that's that. And then we have then Mrs. Loring.
Good day. I am Mary Loring Wheeler, daughter of the Reverend Israel Loring. By 1730, we moved into this new parsonage. It was a very exciting time. Everyone knew and admired my father, the Reverend Israel Loring. I was a teenager, right in the middle, separating my 18-year-old sister and 20-year-old brother from my brothers aged 11 and 9.
So please feel free to visit our website to hear more of those interesting things. So this is, again, one that we you could drive around this or walk around the downtown and listen to, or it's even something that you could engage with as a completely virtual experience. If you are not in the area, you don't have the means to get to Sudbury, something that we can really share all of this great history and content that our wonderful volunteers put together, that anyone in the country, anyone in the world could even access and still sort of feel like they're in Sudbury, engaging with it. So that's kind of our real, we want everyone to be able to have this experience. That's our aim. We know that we have about, given the data of our website, about 65% of Sudbury residents. We can see the traffic coming in for Sudbury IP addresses coming in, which is wonderful. But we would really like it to be much broader. And we've noticed that there's been a lot more hits to it since the pandemic happened, as people are looking for different ways to engage. We have been trying to use it in various ways because they've both been up for so long. We sort of forget that they're there a little bit, so we're not constantly talking about them. However, definitely at the beginning of the pandemic, we made a push to show that they're still there. We had a fundraiser in October where we promoted getting out to walk in historic areas. So we use them as an example. You can certainly get a good mile walk in through all of these sites. So that was a way to promote it for us, and getting people out to engage, be physical and engage in itself, safe and healthy manner. So again, we've been really lucky that we had these volunteers to be able to do all of this. It's a very stable platform as well. It hasn't required a lot of going back to up the information. We're not adding new sites to it. This isn't necessarily content that is changing too much. So we haven't had to go back and make any adaptations or add any new content in. So we are looking, now that we've moved into a new building and we've opened a new museum, we are looking to use some of the platforms, some of these bases for doing a virtual tour of the galleries, which would hopefully be a little bit more of sort of feeling like you're actually in the gallery, and semi VR experience. And for that, we're looking to Google and a few other manufactured platforms for it, which, because while it's been wonderful that we've had these volunteers to do all this work, that there's also the risk of technology that doesn't keep up or advance, or people that have left through various means that aren't able to keep us up to date with the content or the technology. So that's something that we really have to be careful with going forward, of if there's new information and new content that we want to add to it, how do we make sure that we can make this successful for even more years to come, and keeping it robust enough and to stay with the new platforms. So that's something we're very much looking at the moment. But we're really pleased that these have gotten recognized. There's a lot of tremendous hard work that's gone into it. So we're really happy that people are seeing them.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Rachel. This is wonderful. Okay, and now I'm going to introduce you to Dan Stimpson. He's the Assistant Director of Stewardship for the Sudbury Valley Trustees.
Thank you, Desiree, and thank you, Freedom's Way, for having us today. I hope you can see my screen. Okay, so I'm Dan Stimpson. I'm the Assistant Director of Stewardship with Sudbury Valley Trustees. We're a regional nonprofit land trust between Boston and Worcester. And to give you an idea of where we work, this is our service area, that towns that fall within the Concord, Sudbury, and Assabet River Valley. And so we protect land, we care for that land, and we try and connect people to that land. And so one of the main tasks that I have is keeping our trails, parking, and infrastructure like that in good shape and welcoming to the public. And so as part of that, we have this glacial features walk at one of our neighborhood reservations in Sudbury. It's an introduction to glacial features for really a general audience. So it's a self-guided tour. You can scan QR codes on the signposts like the ones you're seeing in this photo here. And those bring you to web pages that have audio, photos, diagram, and text. And so you can also follow wayfinding signs throughout the trail because the trail kind of takes a specific route through a trail network. But you also are available, there's a Google Maps assisted navigation that has specifically the stops on it. So you can follow a little location-based map along the route of the Glacial Features Walk too. So it was a staff and volunteer project. Bruce Porter, who's the gentleman on the bottom right here, had led a Glacial Features Walk for us at Gray. He's actually our preserve steward, a volunteer who helps care for the trail there. And this walk was really popular and was popular every year. And so Bruce started talking to me about wanting a way to kind of memorialize it, to have it available for people throughout the year, but also beyond when he might stop doing the walk. He's still doing it, thankfully. But it's kind of grown since then. Having this extra component of being there and having a self-guided version has really made it more popular. It was really low cost. So we used all free online tools. We don't have any apps or subscriptions or anything. And it's really simple infrastructure. So that photo on the last page with the signpost is just a 4x4 signpost with an all-weather printed in the office sticker that we have replaced, I think, twice over the, I'm not sure exactly how long it's been there, maybe 7 years, something like that. So they hold up pretty well, and it was pretty easy to do, actually. Thankfully, we had Bruce, who had all of the content, and that's something that is really the main piece of this project. So we have at our welcome kiosk at the parking lot, the sign on the left, this yellow one, explains all about it. The little sign that's on the top right of that is an example of the trail markers that you'll find along the path of the Glacial Features Walk. And then you can actually scan for an introduction of the trail itself at the kiosk. And so most phones now, you just point your camera at and it will bring up a hyperlink that will bring you to a web page. But some older phones, you actually need a QR app. And so we describe some of that here. And as I say, it just goes to a web page. So you can take a look at this at your desktop if you want. Our website is adapted for screen resolution. So we geared the content of this page so that it would look best for mobile devices, cell phones. And so the screens that I'm going to show you are just screenshots from a cell phone, and that's really how it looks best. You can look at it on the desktop, but the text kind of runs differently and the photos sit in different places. And so on the left here, you can see an example of the navigation tool that you can use in Google Maps. And so if you go to that introduction page from the kiosk, it will have a link to that and it will open up Google Maps on your phone. And if you were at the site, your little blue circle would walk along that trail as you do, and you can click on any of those little waypoints to be given the option to click to the web page. So if you don't have a QR app, you can actually click through on this Google Maps to find that same content. And then an example of one of the stops here is the third stop where Bruce talks about eskers. And so again, this is where the content was crucial, and we had Bruce, and he authored that, he took the photos, and he recorded his voice for the audio. So he's really the backbone of this project. And so this is just an example of one of those. And so the text is basically written out what Bruce is speaking to if you wanted to listen with earbuds or even on the speaker on your phone. And the audio, we just have a free account with SoundCloud. And that audio has been, we haven't had any issues since we loaded it up. It's worked well. And so you can click that right in your browser and listen right in your web on the phone. So here's an example of what it looks like if you just were to load it up from your desktop. which I've heard some people actually do that through their phone as well, rather than scan the QR or go through the Google Maps. They would just kind of navigate through the website and listen and click through stop 2, stop 3. And so that's available too. But the most recent addition that we had is really cool. This Jed, this young man here, was doing his Eagle project and lives in Sudbury and wanted to help kind of bolster the trail by adding these signs. And so Jed did some artwork for these and built these little way stations for the Esker stop and for the erratic stop on our Glacial Features Walk. So he used the same signpost that used to have just a QR code, and then he installed this sign that he developed the content for. It's got, each one has one of these little hinged questions that you can find an answer to when you pick it up. And then he incorporated in the top left the QR code that you can go to the website to find Bruce's content as well. And so the content that he has here is kind of new and additional to what we have on the site previously. And so he did 2 of those. This is the one for the erratic, and is giving us his design drawings and process and everything so that we could potentially add these in further spots in future years. So that was a pretty cool project, and I think adds a lot to it as well. So that is my presentation, and I would be happy to answer questions when we get to it.
All right, thank you so much, Dan. And thank you to all of our panelists today. We've learned a lot, and we have a good amount of time to answer any questions that you folks may have. So we can do this a number of ways. Again, you can use the Q&A feature down at the bottom of your screen. You could also use the chat feature, which is more off to the right, I believe. Or if you'd like to use the raise your hand function, I can actually allow you to talk. So we don't have any questions at the moment, but let's give it a second. And we will unmute our panelists. Okay, well, while everyone's thinking, I'll start with one. So Jen, let's see, how much, when you worked with districts, the app platform, how much what's the work balance in terms of what you as the client needs to develop, and what did they do any part of the work, or are they just a platform?
They're a platform, so they're seeking people around the country to help promote their downtown. So we created all the content, and we had to get all the photos, all the audio, all of the write-ups, and kind of plug it into the back end of their system. And then they did all of the data entry and work to make the app, user-friendly on their end. And we had to also put out the beacons. So they have a certain mile range of when you walk up to them. So we had to physically put those pieces out too, so that they would sense when you were near.
Okay.
So yeah, they were very, very helpful though, and easy. They're from Florida, and super friendly, easy to work with, able to help us with promotions on it. And give us ideas of what other people are doing around the country, which some of which are activity based, where kids have a scavenger hunt. They have to find certain things along the way. So different ways people are using this activity function and feature.
Great, thank you. All right, so now the questions have been pouring in. So I think this one's probably most pertinent to Dan. Sally Hild asks, have you had any difficulty with vandalism to the outdoor posts?
We have not. So I talked to Jed a lot about that through his Eagle project, because his has the biggest expense put into it, and so far so good. And I'm hopeful that it'll stay that way, but we've been lucky.
Oh, good. And then a follow-up to that is, so although you've had a positive experience, is there a budget factor, that if you do have to do replacement, that's something you're thinking of, or more of something you would cross the line of what if and when it happens?
Probably the latter. So Jed did some of his design for the larger signs so that we could potentially just replace a signboard within his frame, hopefully, if somebody scratched it with a key or something like that. And honestly, the posts are just a pressure treated post with a piece of vinyl on top, so that we could cover through operation expenses.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so this one could apply to all of you. Claire Carlson asks, how easy is it to find and use these free online tools? Are there tutorials out there? So when you were, looking for a platform to use, those of you who went a free route, is there a wealth of information out there? Or did you really have to figure it out as you go? Whoever would like to jump in there.
Again, we haven't done this yet, but we've been looking for our next virtual item. We've been looking at Google, and it is free, and they do have some tutorials on there. It's a bit of a you can play around with it. So we've been taking some pictures and trying to enter those in. And there is knowledge out there. Google is fairly helpful, and we've found that to be a nice little tool. Again, most Google things are free for some up to a point. So that's one that we're actively pursuing.
Great.
We use Google as well. So the version for using the navigation tool was a piece called My Maps that we just published to Google, and SoundCloud holds the audio. That was really straightforward. Kind of works just like YouTube, but specifically for audio. The QR codes themselves, you can find free websites that you just paste in a URL and click convert, and it shows you the picture, and you can save that as a JPEG. And then we just kind of created our web pages through our typical website.
And yep, Jen, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I had answered this in the chat, but just to the app developer did ask us to be a beta tester for the app a few years ago, and its main intention on this app is to be like a retail locator and resource for downtowns. So its main objective is to be in multiple places that a visitor might want to see. So I liken it to, if you've ever been to Target, there's a cartwheel app that kind of tracks your preferences and lets you know about deals. It's kind of the same base as that. I also liken it to Facebook when you're in another city other than your own and you start getting recommendations of places your friends have been. So districts in that way does work to engage people on the retail end, but with an opportunity to have these extra tour features, which are not free. That's where we thought we could really showcase our art, in rather than just a paper form.
Oh, great. Thank you all. So here's another one that likely applies to everyone. Carol Turson asks, has public safety been an issue? So whether or not, are you factoring in, do people need to cross a street, or is it going to be difficult to find this location? Is that a busy road? Any of those factors?
Yes, I'm centered right now in our downtown, so I can sort of see the different areas that are on our walk. It's certainly something that needs to be considered. I personally walked across the road a few times. It's been fine. It's a relatively quiet and safe downtown, so I don't think we're too concerned about sending people out to be here. I think if it was a busier road, or if it was, you know, like a little bit more dangerous, then we might have a little bit more disclaimers on our website. However, I think we feel fairly confident that most people are feel fairly comfortable interacting. You know, we have a school right next door to us, and so there's a lot of people slowing down. You know, it's a 20-mile-an-hour zone during the day, so not too concerned, but you know, that's something that we should always be aware of.
Mm.
Well, we're in I'm not sure the population of Sudbury, but we're in a small city of 90,000. So we feel that we do have a very safe downtown. I think people may have their own experiences visiting us, but we do suggest parking at a public garage. And yes, there is the main street to cross. We did consider also use of a wheelchair or a walker. It's a 1-mile tour, and it is pretty navigable on the city sidewalks. So we did consider that. As far as safety, I would say use your own judgment when you're deciding when to go, because it is a 24/7 thing, like the other tours are. And comfort factor may be different for different people. I feel very comfortable in our city. But we haven't had any issues.
Great. Dan, do you have anything to add?
Not really. It's so we have a lot of interpretive trails that are the old-fashioned just folded paper that you follow, and really this is the same thing except you're carrying a phone instead of the paper. So it really hasn't kind of brought any new issues to us, I don't think.
Okay, so here's a follow-up question to that, Dan. Now that you mentioned you have some other interpretive trails, paper types on other properties, have you considered switching any of those or incorporating the QR element on any of those trails?
We have one other, actually two others. So we had another Eagle Scout at a property in Framingham, switched from a paper guide to an interactive guide. It doesn't have audio, but it has a lot of hyperlinks to more information about subjects that are along the trail and some pictures. And so that we have a link to on our website as well. And then we had actually a high school student who did an externship with us one spring, who changed the interpretive trail at our headquarters at Walbeck Farm in Sudbury from paper to another QR version as well. And so he authored text for the different stops, and his actually has 2 different parallel tracks for different seasons. So you can take it in the summer and the winter, and it has different content. And that one's kind of fun too.
Oh, very neat. Okay, we have another question from Carol. How did you think about incorporating accessibility needs? So whether or not that's, wheelchair accessibility or, eyesight needs, were those taken into consideration when developing any of these tours?
Absolutely, for us. So we have a nice newly paved sidewalk, but we do have areas that have brick laid in, which is more decorative, which I can tell you from wheeling signs up and down the street for our farmers market, those areas get bumpy. Also where there's areas of drainage, just where there's slight different elevations on the street as certain businesses have different sidewalk profiles. So it's a little bumpy, I would say, but the streets are able to be navigated. We have outdoor dining right now, which is going to end soon as well. So we had a lot of extra tables and chairs on the sidewalk that normally wouldn't be there. So kind of, I think maneuvering around that in the summer there's always going to be a clear lane, but everybody's trying to make the best run that they can with having to dine outside. So it's an active city, and yeah, we did certainly consider that.
We unfortunately do not. Ours don't.
I can't necessarily say what was considered at the time. I wasn't here at the time. However, all of the sites are public spaces, so they should mostly be accessible in some capacity to begin with. So.
Mm, great. And it also sounds, many of you who have audio components, that the actual transcript of that is also available. So there are multiple ways of getting the information. So that's great. All right, so we have a question here, which actually will end up being a segue into our second session that'll be held next week. But Chris Hurley from Woburn, he's asking if any of you have experience with augmented reality or are thinking of working with augmented reality on any future projects, or taking your current project a step further using that.
So not necessarily in this job that I have experience. I have a little bit of experience in my previous position in both VR and AR. It's something that I would love to incorporate here going forward. Obviously, with again, as I said, doing some more virtual experiences in our galleries and trying to make those more of an immersive VR virtual reality experience. I think there's some really amazing things that could happen with augmented reality. Some spectacular things that are happening in museums right now. So I certainly know that it's something that I'm going to be exploring for us in this field. Not quite sure when and how, but something we will be doing in the future.
Okay.
I'd say not necessarily for us, just because with this tour, we wanted to make it so accessible that you don't have to deal with when places were open for viewing. And there's certainly art in buildings and restaurants. But I would say, no, we haven't planned for that.
Anything to add, Dan?
No, we have not either. I mean, we are, I saw some of the topics for next week as well. We are thinking about doing kind of trail tours, not necessarily augmented reality, but maybe just a remote tour that you could do from home.
Great.
I also wanted to add, Rachel had touched upon, and maybe, I'm not sure if Dan as well, but in addition to their tours being offered online, ours is as well. You can sign in from your phone anywhere in the world and still take this tour. So you do not have to walk, get out of your car. You can take it from the safety of your home. And it's a great thing.
That is great. And that's certainly something that we are, hoping to inspire partners to look towards doing too, so that we can, reach these new and diverse audiences and people who, may never be able to visit this side of the country or whatnot, to still kind of understand and see all the wonderful things that we have going on here. So we have about 5 minutes left. If there are any lingering questions, please add them now. And we did have one left, and again, this is just for you, Dan. So you expressed that this project really didn't cost you very much money at all. Would you say if you had, just if you had attained a $5,000 grant or whatnot, and this gift of money was given to you, is there something that would that funding help take this tour to another level, would you say?
We could certainly, with more funding, we could produce more of the signs in the style that Jed has done for the first two. So I think there are 8 or 9 stops, and it would be a pretty significant cost to add those style signs to the entire trail. But I think that would add a nice feature, especially because it has extra information and kind of a different way to interact with the trail.
Oh, great. But on the technology side, really not needed, right?
Well, so we early on thought about hosting it through kind of a customized app, which would certainly take an investment and would require some grant funding. We thought that to start off, especially to see how it goes, to use these free and things that are on your phone that you don't even have to download, to just make it open to more people. But we are starting to think about the potential of having an app that would be custom to all of our trails. And so that kind of could work its way into it somehow as well.
Very good. Okay.
One
So-
other thing, oh, sorry.
Oh, I had a quick question because I think I saw it come up and I don't know who asked it. Do you track statistics on how many people are using these products? So I don't think we answered that one. And then really quickly, Jen, is there an annual fee to host that tour on that app?
So to answer your question on that I did answer that in text. The app gives us the user's name, email, login date, and time.
Okay.
And then they do have a one-time fee for setup, but it's after that it is not annual. And my only other comment was that we have not completed it yet, but we also plan on having the app completely done in Spanish. We do have a very versatile population here, and we wanted to make sure it was inclusive for everybody.
We track all of our website through Google Analytics. So the pages that are a part of this tour are part of that as well. And you can see how the visitor reached that page. So you could see if they were to reach it through the link from clicking on their QR code.
Yeah, more or less the same. We the volunteer who controls our website is able to track the analytics of the website, so we can see who comes and where they come from. So it's really helpful for us.
Okay, great. And one final question, and we'll just go right down the line on this one. Has there been a method of promotion for this particular project that you have found to work the best in getting this out to your audiences? Dan, we can start with you.
Ours has been in place for quite a while, so it's not something that we're actively promoting very often right now, but there are links on so one of the most popular parts of our website is our trail maps pages, and you can find it very easily there, and then on the signs on the property. And I think occasionally it gets shared through social media, Facebook and Instagram, things like that.
Okay. And Rachel?
Again, more or less the same. They've been up for a while, so we aren't constantly putting them out there, but social media, again, when we had our fundraiser in October, we made a big push for them then. And certainly at the beginning of the pandemic, we made a push, put them out there on social media again to remind everyone that they were there.
Wonderful. And Jen?
Unlike the others, our tour is brand new, and we just launched it in August. It was a little bit more of a soft launch based on other things we are programming. And with this new video, which is actually not 100%, there's going to be a little more added into that. We're really excited about being able to launch this bigger and better. We do have a large social media following, and we do have a weekly newsletter with paid sponsorships. So also our tour engaged with three to five other organizations that created these pieces of art. So not just us as the one that brought it together, but all of those separate entities will utilize our marketing to spread that out to their networks as well. So we're really just at the beginning for our marketing on this.
All right, great. Well, thank you all for all of our panelists today for joining and for sharing your experiences with us and for creating these wonderful projects that really add to the vibrancy of the 45 communities of the Freedoms Way National Heritage Area. And thank you to all of our attendees for joining us today. If you haven't already done so, we encourage you to register for our program same time, same day, next week, November 19th, and we'll look closer at virtual tours. So I hope you all have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend. And with that, we'll talk to you later.